As a matter of fact, it's been only one season for the last 2 years across the globe, and that was possibly winter. I hope you're going to agree with it because it was only the sound of withering leaves and withering lives. We are back to spring, and we have that wonderful line, if winter comes, can spring be far behind? But spring has come the natural way, and also in our country, through the hands of an iron minded man who's been leading the country for almost a decade now. Life would have been something different for us if it wasn't for our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, who took wonderful and remarkable decisions with a very strong hand. And India has been able to save more lives than in many other countries. As a matter of fact, in the Western countries, there have been more losses than in India. How was it possible? We have a remarkable lady with us, the author of a book which I have in my hand right now, A Nation to Protect. And we have this wonderful lady with us who is a proud alumna of the University of Delaware and the University of Florida. She resides in Mumbai, but her heart is everywhere else. We welcome her to our show this afternoon. Good afternoon. When I've been going through this book, I find two things. That one part says what your heart spoke. It's been one journey. And the other part, the way you've been able to go inside the man who is our respected Prime Minister. I find a question, ma'am, which you put to the Prime Minister as to how he found his strength during the toughest of days. He comes up with a big small answer. I have a big appetite for what? I have a big appetite for this situation, for the risks he's been taking. How do you judge this personality when you were close with him and your journey alongside?
So, when I asked him this question, that was, we have to remember that there were lots of people predicting a doomsday situation for India. And, in that context, I had asked him that when so many people were predicting that Indians were going to die out of disease or starvation, and there were going to be bodies piled up on the streets, how did you find your strength to deal with something like that? Did you believe them? And if not, then how did you think you would save the country, save every Indian? And that's when he said that, I have belief in the systems that I have put in place from 2014, that this is a crisis situation and the bureaucracy will perform the way it needs to. He believed in his bureaucrats, and he believed in the way that he had accustomed them for working together forming clusters since 2014. So that groundwork he had already done for so many years. So he believed that this is the time that will start to show positive impact. And they also created these empowered groups, of bureaucrats from across ministries to solve every major problem. And I think that really helped as well. But yes, so that's how the Prime Minister was confident that we'll be able to tide over this crisis.
Actually, what made you think of writing this with such an enormous amount of data which you've put in, the statistics that have gone in? And I find it is almost like a diary, You start off with 2020, you start off with Mr. Doval, and then you go along, across the country you've been moving. Or were you journeying a lot, or it was only a kind of, a reference? What was it that drove you to write such a wonderful context?
Today, when you see India's situation today, we are far more secure and we are far more protected than many other countries, big countries in the world. So if you say, take United States for example, they're on the cusp of another wave. Even today as we speak, hospitalizations are increasing. In China, some of the biggest cities are under lockdown. There are anti-vax movements across Europe. There are anti-vax movements that are taking steam, with leaving a major portion of their population unvaccinated and vulnerable. But in India, not only have we administered over 190 crore doses.
We rode across 3 weeks.
Yes, and with Omicron, with the minimal damage in terms of hospitalization and deaths. So there is a reason why this has happened, and that is because of meticulous planning on all levels of government, from our top leadership to the last man working in the government structure. But yet there has been so much political opposition, narrative building, misinformation campaigns, that it became essential to bring out facts. And the only way to bring out facts is with extensive data, statistics.
That's the exact thing which propelled you to do this.
Yes, that is the exact thing that propelled me to do this. That narratives cannot define our COVID fight. It's the data and it's the actual impact on ground that will define India's COVID response, which is now, recognized worldwide.
I find in the book somewhere, friends, once again, I would like to show you this cover page, the cover of the book, which speaks so much. We have the national flag, we have Mr. Modi alongside, and we have this wonderful lady who fought for such a long time, working on this book, where you put it that Mr. Modi goes back to his school days, or when he sees the flood, he spends time with people for days and months together, and probably that was the beginning of the stint of this remarkable politician and of course the human being. So how did you feel like when you were spending time with him, when you were gathering information firsthand from him? How would you like to put it?
So he always goes back to his experiences, and he's probably one of the most widely traveled leaders that we have. He has extensively traveled across the country through the years that he has been active, whether in the Sangh or whether it is in politics. So he understands people, and he understands people at every level, whether it is in the rural parts of the country, whether there are people in the urban areas, whether it's a grocer or a farmer or a businessman or a mechanic. He understands their needs and wants. And I think his school days, again, he went back to that, and he, and during the time he served after the floods in Gujarat, that he saw that after the devastation, people were still starving and dying of starvation. So that sort of led him to, to form this policy on the free food grain program, which is going on even today. So we don't have a single death out of starvation in the last 2+ years of the pandemic.
So that's the more human part of Mr. Modi that makes him a remarkable statesman. Would you like to put it that way? It can be the other way around also, I understand, because his extensive traveling, his meeting people, meeting at the grassroots level, and his virtual meetings throughout the years, Now, 2 years and more, like I wanted to put it, that it's been only winter across the globe. Now that spring is coming back, like you put America, they're again on the brink of maybe another wave. And China, they are shutting down places. India, we are riding high. With your level of intellect and experience and in the political corridors, how would you like to place India's chances during this journey after 2022? We are now in May, June. So what do you think our chances of survival and progress would be in the next 6 or 8 months?
See, when we locked down during the first wave, we have to realize that we locked down because we had no tools that any country needs to fight a respiratory disease like COVID. So we had no masks, PPE kits, ventilators, essential.
Once in a lifetime.
Yeah. So we didn't have.
You asked
correct.
the Prime Minister about
Correct. We didn't have any of that. Even our infrastructure, health infrastructure, was pretty weak at that point in time. So we had to lock down for a few weeks till we augment all of those capacities. But now, today's situation is that we have our own vaccines, which are proving to be more effective than any other vaccines in the world. We have vaccinated our population, more than anywhere else in the world. We have been able to export them. So we are in a situation to handle a new wave of the pandemic if it comes to us very actively, like we've seen with Omicron. Unless, of course, there is a new variant, that is very fatal and it's killing people on infection, then obviously we have to take more drastic measures. But if it is a variant which we've seen before and which has characteristics like other variants that we've seen before, we are in a very good capacity to handle it.
It's been wonderful talking to this remarkable lady who has been traveling across the world, gathering data in our country and putting them in this wonderful book, A Nation to Protect. Now, one last question to her. How has her journey personally been, while she was gathering these data? Her academics helped her, her street smartness helped her emotions helped her, and of course, I think she has a wonderful family support, which she was talking about prior to this interview. How has her journey been? And in this part of her life, when spring has sprung up once again, what will she like to end up with?
So it's been very interesting because I've, the only thing that has, bound people together, with this project is extreme love for our nation and pride in our country. So many doors unexpectedly have opened up. So many helping hands have come forward. And I'm very appreciative of, of all of that. This book is now being made into a web series and a movie. So we'll release it soon. So there's a lot to look forward to. That's news for us all, that this will also come on the celluloid, and that's wonderful. And of course, we believe that this wonderful lady, she'll be riding the chariot of success, and so will our country. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.